Hi you guys, it's T.A. Megan, and tomorrow, but today, because I'm going to upload the video for today, is Abraham Lincoln's birthday. And I have this, it looks like it's a little book, but the words in it are very small. There's some pictures too. So I'm going to read this longer book about Abraham Lincoln. He's one of my favorite presidents, so much that I had a cat named Lincoln. So I might do a couple videos because this is a long book. So we'll call this Abraham Lincoln Part 1. It is a Discover America's National Treasures books. And it was written by Timothy P. Townsend in 2014. So the following is a look into the life of a very great man, Abraham Lincoln. Today, it is easy to see his greatness. We see Lincoln as a larger-than-life statue in the Lincoln Memorial or the face on Mount Rushmore. We should remember that Abraham Lincoln began in very common situations as a farmer, a store clerk, attorney, husband, and father. We all agree that he achieved greatness, but we should remember that he did not start out great. Lincoln's life was a demonstration of what he believed, that the United States was established on the basis that no one should have limitations placed upon them. Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12th, that's right, today, but in the year 1809, near Hodgenville, Kentucky, the second of 3 children born to Thomas and Nancy Hank Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln's father was a farmer and a carpenter who spent most of his life on the frontier. Lincoln's grandfather was killed by an Indian in Kentucky, leaving his father an orphan at age 6. His father grew up literally without any education, Lincoln wrote many years later. Lincoln's older sister, Sarah, was born in 1807, and his younger brother, Thomas, was born in 1812. But Thomas had died in his infancy. Lincoln lived with his family on the farm of his birth until 1811, when they moved several miles to a farm on Knob Creek. The Lincoln family stayed on the Knob Creek place another 5 years until December of 1816. When they moved to southern Indiana, Lincoln recorded that the family moved partly on account of slavery, but chiefly on account of the difficulty in land titles in Kentucky. Lincoln recalled of his childhood that, "I was raised to farm work, which I continued till I was 22. Tragedy struck young Lincoln when on October 5th, 1818, his mother, Nancy Hanks, died of a milk sickness, an ailment that occurs when the milk from a cow that had eaten the white snakeroot plant is consumed." Oh, that's sad. But I want to show you this painting. It says it's a painting of Abraham Lincoln done by George Peter Alexander. It's before he got his famous beard. Well, the death of Lincoln's mother left young Lincoln and his sister Sarah responsible for the great amount of work involved with maintaining a frontier home and farm. The following year, Thomas Lincoln left the 2 children at their Indiana farm and traveled to Elizabethtown, Kentucky, where he married widow Sarah Bush Johnston. Thomas then returned home with his children with his new wife and her 3 children. Lincoln recalled that Sarah proved a good and kind stepmother, and as the years went by, the new Lincoln family continued to farm. The children attended school when they could, and Abraham later recounted that he went to ABC schools by littles, and aggregate of all his schooling did not amount to even 1 year. He always regretted his lack of formal schooling, but looked for opportunities for more education, writing that he regrets his want of education and does what he can to supply the want. Tragedy again befell the Lincoln family when Abraham Lincoln's sister Sarah died while in childbirth in January of 1828. Lincoln experienced the death of his mother and sister within 10 years of one another on the harsh frontier. In 1830, the Lincoln family was again on the move, and this time to Illinois. In March, they settled along the Sangamon River, 10 miles southwest of Decatur. In the following year, Lincoln set out on his own for the first time, and he settled in New Salem, Illinois. Within a year of Lincoln's arrival at New Salem, he began his political career by entering the race for the Illinois legislature. His campaign was interrupted when he joined with other volunteers in forming an Illinois militia unit at the beginning of the Black Hawk War. The company elected Abraham Lincoln as their captain, and Lincoln later recalled that, quote, he had not since had any success in life, which gave him so much satisfaction, unquote. Lincoln traveled throughout northern Illinois during his 4-month service with the Black Hawk War, and later joked that in his military service he had, quote, a good many bloody struggles with the mosquitoes, unquote. Lincoln held a variety of jobs during this time in New Salem. In 1833, he invested in a New Salem store, and later in the year was appointed the postmaster. In 1834, he took up land surveying and won his first election to public office as a representative in the Illinois legislature. Lincoln took his legislative seat at the state capitol in Vandalia and was reelected in 1836. It was during this time that fellow legislator John Todd Stewart persuaded Lincoln to study law. In February of 1837, the Illinois legislature approved the transfer of the Illinois capital from Vandalia to Springfield. Lincoln concluded that his prospects were much brighter in the newly designated capital city, and in April of 1837, he moved to Springfield to begin practicing law as a junior partner with Stewart. Lincoln didn't arrive with very much, but was befriended by Springfield merchant Joshua Speed, who offered to share his room above his general store with Abraham, and the two developed a lifelong friendship. All right, in this first picture, it's Abraham Lincoln reading by firelight with his stepmother, Sarah Bush Johnston Lincoln. Let's see. And in the second picture, it says, this print, Abraham Lincoln, the rail splitter, painted in 1909, depicts Abraham Lincoln splinting logs to make rails for the train. All right. During this time, Abraham began courting Mary Ann Todd. Mary was visiting from her home in Lexington, Kentucky, and was staying with her sister, Elizabeth Todd Edwards. Lincoln and Mary were wed on November 4th, 1842, at the home of Elizabeth and Ninian Edwards. Lincoln later corresponded to a friend saying, quote, nothing new here except my marrying, which to me is a matter of profound wonder, unquote. The newlyweds moved into a rooming house known as the Globe Tavern in downtown Springfield, which is where their first son, Robert Todd Lincoln, was born on August 1st, 1843. On May 1st, 1844, the Lincoln family moved into a home they would live in for the next 16 years, and at the corner of 8th and Jackson Streets. 2 years later, on March 10th, 1846, the couple's second son, Edward Baker Lincoln, was born. With a growing family to support, Abraham continued his legal career, traveling extensively throughout central Illinois on the 8th Judicial Circuit. As a circuit riding attorney, Lincoln was better able to make a name for himself as an attorney and a politician. Lincoln and Stuart dissolved their law partnership in April 1841, and Lincoln formed a new firm with Stephen T. Logan. The firm of Logan and Lincoln continued until 1844, when Lincoln became the senior partner of the law firm for Lincoln and Herndon with William H. Herndon. In 1846, Lincoln was elected as a representative to the 13th U.S. Congress, and the following year he brought his family with him to Washington for the beginning of his term. Mary and the boys eventually left Washington, in part because Lincoln thought Mary hindered me some in attending to business. And a few months later, however, Lincoln wrote that having nothing but business and no variety made life exceedingly tasteless. In this portrait, it says, "This is the earliest known photograph of Abraham Lincoln. It is a daguerreotype circa 1848. So, because I used to be a photographer, I can tell you what that is. That is a real photograph, and they dip a piece of silver metal in lead. And then they put a person that they're going to take a picture of in a special chair, and there's parts to hold him still because he's probably sitting there for at least an hour while the image is burned into the soft lead. And then they put it in another chemical dip, and they dip it down, and when they pull it out, they get this. And it's metal, hard like a ring or an earring. All right, I'm going to keep reading. Here we go. A self-made man. Fewer American presidents receive a more meager education than Abraham Lincoln. Yet, none have written a more or spoken with greater eloquence. And in his own words, he grew up in the wild region where there was absolutely nothing exhibition for education. Lincoln's schooling consisted of no more than a year's worth of classes taught by a series of visiting teachers. But demonstration to the determination so much part of the 19th century ideal of a self-made man, Lincoln responded to the pressure of necessity and set about educating himself. He read voraciously, borrowing books from whomever he could, and often rereading volumes when he could not locate anything new. I do that too. I have favorite books I'll reread. He numbered the King James Bible, Aesop's Fables, Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress, Defoe's Robinson Crusoe, Shakespeare plays, and Franklin's autobiography amongst his favorites. Lincoln's drive for self-education outlasted his youth. Unable to pay for law school, he borrowed law books and, in his own words, studied with no one. As a circuit-riding lawyer in the 1830s, he mastered 6 volumes of Euclidean geometry in order to sharpen his powers of logic and language. In an 1859 speech, Lincoln saluted the importance of reading, which gives access to whatever has already been discovered by others. Today we might label the 16th president a lifelong learner. All right, in this picture it says, Lincoln in his boyhood, reading by firelight. And it's a lithograph from 1868. A lithograph is a type of print. That's a little fancier than just like printing a book. All right, I think I'm going to put a marker in it, and we will come back to it, and it will be easy for you to find in the video where we left off, because before we start, I'll hold it up again, okay? All right, that's it for tonight. I'm going to read more, and by the end of the morning tomorrow, I will have the whole book read, and you can listen and watch me read. All right, I will see you later, and happy birthday, Abraham Lincoln.